Welcome back, everyone. In this video, I want to talk about 2 techniques for productivity that have helped me far greater than, let's say, sheer discipline ever has before. There are plenty of people on YouTube, for example. 2 people that come off the top of my head are Jocko Willink and David Goggins. They're both guys who are retired military, and they're both doing well in their areas of life. They both fit in this same, I would call it self-improvement niche that I would say I'm also in. Their themes vary a bit. They have different channels. They focus on different content. But one big theme, one big central message of both of theirs, and I would say David's to an even more extreme side. And by the way, you should look these guys up on YouTube. They've got some great content. Their central message on their channels seems to be, well, not seems to be, it is discipline. One of Jocko's famous phrases is discipline equals freedom. And David takes it one step further in all of these videos he has about how sometimes you just find yourself in situations you don't like, where you are uncomfortable, where you are in pain, where you're tired, you're sweaty, you don't want to do the work, but there is no avoiding it. Or you know that the alternative, if you avoid the work, your life gets worse over time. So sometimes you just have to do it. You just have to do the work. Sometimes motivation isn't enough. I've talked about that before in some of my videos, where I'd always watch like motivational videos on YouTube or listen to music that I find to be motivating, or maybe read a book or something, or read something online, or like inspirational quotes, things like that, to get me to jumpstart me, give me a kickstart to get back to work, from working on things that I've been procrastinating on. But this discipline approach is fine for people that it works for. For me, it didn't. I tried this nothing but sheer discipline, pushing myself, doing the work anyways when I don't feel like it kind of approach for a while, and wondered why I kept flip-flopping from being extremely motivated to doing nothing. Now that's a personal problem. It doesn't mean everyone deals with this. But for me, I was cracking the whip and then I procrastinate, crack the whip and then procrastinate, and I kept this cycle over and over, which resulted in me never really getting anything done. And when I did, it was only because suddenly the deadline was right there and I had like a night to finish a paper for school, let's say, something I could have done a week ago, which that's a true story. So I want to talk about 2 techniques that I currently use now, that for me at least is better than sheer discipline. It's better than just pushing myself to do things that I hate, things that I'm avoiding or don't want to do. So the 2 techniques are rewarding yourself and talking to yourself. And the second one sounds pretty strange, I know. So I'll break these 2 down and I'll tell you guys how I incorporate them into my life, how I do it. And I recommend you personalize these strategies for sure. So I'll talk about the talking to yourself first. I think that needs addressed first. When I say talking to yourself, I don't mean like a psychopath, like you're actually out loud talking to yourself all day. That's pretty creepy. What I mean is, and I may have touched on this in a previous video, what I mean by talking to yourself, this is what I do, is I have something when I wake up in the morning, I know there's something on my to-do list that I have for myself that I'm dreading, like that I've been avoiding, procrastinating on. And I tell myself, let's look at the possibilities here in this situation. What are the possible outcomes with this? So one is I get up and I go and do this thing that I know I should do. Because if I don't, and I put this off for later, then my life gets harder. So if I don't do it right away, I put it till later, I'll have to do it later, along with something else, maybe 10 other things. Whereas if I would have done it sooner, I would have had more time to devote to other priorities that pop up during the day or during the week. But because I didn't, now I suffer. So you can think of it as, I'm going to break this down into even two more subsets of this technique, two more strategies. There's pain and reward. And this reward is separate from the second technique I'll tell you guys about. So there's two ways to motivate yourself with this technique. And I would actually recommend combining the two. The first is you can motivate yourself with pain. It sounds kind of sadistic, I know. All it is you talk with yourself. You have an honest conversation with yourself and you say, all right, Jake, look, if we don't do this now, we're going to regret it later. We're going to be kicking ourselves later for not doing it, because if we don't start this paper now, which is due tomorrow, that means we're going to be having to stay up late tonight doing it, or we're going to have to wake up super early to finish this paper. Or if we don't take out the trash right now, we're going to have to do it later. We're not going to feel like doing it later. We certainly don't feel like doing it right now, but are you going to feel like doing it at 10 at night when there's other things you want to be doing? Whereas if we take the 5 minutes, if that, to take out the trash, then we can devote our time to other things. It's not fun to do it in the moment right now. No one wants to do that. No one likes taking out the trash. Most people I've met don't like mowing the lawn. Some people do. Some people find it cathartic. Most people don't like doing these things like chores, homework, studying for tests, so on and so forth, paying bills. No one likes doing these things. These are uncomfortable things to do. But if we do them in the moment, and this is the conversation we can have with ourselves, if we do it in the moment, we don't have to suffer later because we've done it. And we can focus on other things. Maybe even later that day, maybe later tonight, we'll have time to devote to hobbies of ours and creative outlets or side hustles. But if we don't, then we suffer. So that's how pain can motivate you. And that's the conversation you can have with yourself about pain. And the other is reward. And it's similar. What you tell yourself instead is, okay, if I do this thing right now, I'll have time later, right? If I do this now, I'll have time later to devote to things that I actually want to do, things that I actually care about. This is something that I have to do, just to get on with life. This is a pure obligation, something I have to do. It's necessary. If I do it right now, do it to the best of my ability right now, I don't have to later, which is awesome. Now I have time to hang out with friends. Now I have time to play video games. I have time to just relax. Or I have time to, as I said, devote it to something you're working on the side. You have time to devote it to working on your book, working on this piece of art, reading, or getting to bed earlier, right? There are a lot of rewards for doing the work, doing whatever task it is right in front of you. So that's the other conversation you can have with yourself. There's a conversation of the pain that you're going to have to endure if you don't do this right now. And there's also this potential for rewards that you can reap if you do it now. So what I recommend is actually taking a combination of the two. So you can tell yourself, if I don't do this thing right now, I'm going to have to do it later, and that's going to suck. And it's probably going to be harder to do it later because I'll be more tired. I won't be as motivated, right? Because I'll be tired, it's late at night, it's the last thing I want to do. And probably on top of that will be other things compounded now because I waited. Now there are other things I also have to do that will be splitting my attention, which will make it even harder to focus on this and to do a good quality work. And if I do it now, one reward, of course, is no pain. But on top of that, if I do it now, along with avoiding this unnecessary pain and suffering, then I have time to devote to other things. So combine that conversation. And that's the conversation I have with myself a lot. I have to study for a test, and I tell myself, Jake, we don't want to do this. Right? I don't want to, you don't want to study for this test right now. But if we don't, we're going to have to do it later. We don't want to do it right now. We don't want to, but we certainly, knowing us, are not going to want to later in the evening or tonight. And having these conversations with yourself takes introspection, and it requires you to know yourself pretty well. So you could call it a prerequisite, but at the same time, I would say having these conversations also allows you to learn more about yourself. You learn about your boundaries and limitations. You learn about what motivates you, what incentivizes you to do work. And you can learn how to set goals for yourself, achievable goals. So that's what I would recommend for technique 1. Something that I think is better than just sheer discipline and just this raw discipline, forcing yourself to do things that you don't like to do, is to talk to yourself. Talk about the pain that you can avoid by doing the tasks in front of you right away, and also talk to yourself about the rewards you can gain by doing in the moment. So that's technique number 1. Now, technique number 2 is setting up a reward system for yourself. This is important, and I have noticed a direct correlation. As soon as I started doing this, and I've been trying this pretty consistently for 2 or 3 months at the time this video's being recorded, and I've seen results. And I told you guys that these techniques have worked better for me than just your discipline. This really has. Rewards have been very helpful for me. It's really simple. I'll give you an example of how I do it. So I complete a task on my to-do list. Let's say this is something I do every day. I do my morning routine, which is very important for me and my health. It's a good way to slowly wake up and arise, get ready for the day. I have my routine that I do, and then I check it off my to-do list. After I check it off my to-do list, it's important that I reward myself with anything. So I play a game on my phone for 5 minutes. I usually do that a lot. I'll pick a game on my phone, play for 5 or 10 minutes. And then after those 5 or 10 minutes, after I've had it's less of a break, it's a reward. It's a time for relaxation and rewarding yourself for a job well done. And then after I do that, I go on to the next thing. And then once I've completed that task, however long it takes me, then I reward myself again. It's important to reward yourself for a job well done. I think it's very important. But what's just as important, it's an important second step, is the consistency. So if you're going to tell yourself, all right, we're going to start rewarding ourselves for a job well done, then don't skimp on it. Don't lie to yourself. Don't deceive yourself and let yourself down. So if you do a good job on something, make sure you reward yourself. Eat that cookie, or play that game on your phone, or go to your Xbox or PlayStation, whatever, hop on your computer and, browse the internet, or, play video games for 15, 20 minutes or whatever, or give yourself 10 minutes to browse social media. Whatever these little vices are, little escapes, maybe it's reading your fantasy book for 15 minutes. Whatever these things are that you would normally, and I especially would normally spend, hours on wasting time, you can turn them into chunks of rewards that you can use to incentivize yourself to keep moving forward. And if you do that, at least for me, it in theory, it will motivate you to keep moving through the tasks that you got to knock out in the day. Because you're subconsciously telling yourself by doing that, this task is going to end. It's going to end. And not just that, but I have a reward to look forward to. If I do this job well, if I not only do it, but do it well, then I can reward myself. There's light at the end of the tunnel, right? Whatever that is, games, social media, desserts, or whatever it is, little vices, little cheats, little mini cheat days within our day. This reward system has helped me tremendously. It's helped me. I really mean that, guys. I've only been doing it for a little bit, like 2 months maybe, since I've started incorporating some simple reward system into my life, and it has helped tremendously. Because as I said, the discipline, just forcing myself to do things, pushing myself, didn't really work for me. I think for some people, like this Jocko Willink guy I've talked about, or David Goggins, and I'm huge fans of both of them. They have a lot of good advice. But the sheer discipline message doesn't work for me. It might not work for you. So if you find yourself in these ruts, as I sometimes find myself in, try these techniques. They may help you. Try talking to yourself. It's a sort of negotiation with yourself. And these two techniques, just as I talked about in the first technique of talking to yourself, where you're combining this pain conversation, this reward conversation, let's look even broader and actually try combining the first and second techniques together. So now you're talking to yourself and you're rewarding yourself, which means you're negotiating with yourself, which means you're no longer tyrannizing yourself. That's what a tyrant does. You become like your own slave. Become your own tyrant and your own slave at the same time, if that makes sense. You're subjugating yourself. You're forcing yourself to do things you don't want to do. That doesn't sound to me like a healthy, loving relationship. And these techniques, really what we should be aiming for is to learn more about ourselves and to develop and to cultivate and foster a healthy relationship with ourselves. We can get to learn about who we are, as a person. And tyrannizing yourself, I don't think is going to help. For some people it does, as I said. But for me, and I think certainly for a lot of other people, there are better ways. And I think I found some better ways. This isn't revolutionary, but it has been for me. This isn't a new idea. But since I've tried this, it's been incredible. When I realized there's got to be a better way than forcing myself to do things. That's not a healthy relationship. I am a slave to myself. And that was a revelation that's really helped me. So try these two techniques in combination. Talking to yourself and rewarding yourself sets up this negotiation process where instead of you just being a boss and an employee or a tyrant and a slave, you are, well, you're a friend to yourself. That's what you are. You're being a friend to yourself. So you're asking yourself, when you're talking to yourself, having a genuine conversation with yourself, and you're saying, look, we don't want to do this. We don't. But if we don't do this now, we're going to pay for it later. And at the same time, if we do this now, we won't have to pay for it later, and we can devote our time to other things that we care more about. So let's do some good work. And while we're doing good work, we'll take some breaks and we'll reward ourselves for good work. Every time we check the box on our to-do list, we can let ourselves have a snack. We can watch YouTube for 15 minutes. We can browse social media, go through Instagram posts for 15 minutes or play video games for a half hour or something, We break up the mundane nature of this work, and then we'll get back to it. But we'll do it. I promise you that I'll be consistent. At least I'll try my best to be consistent. I'm sure that sometimes I'll fail in it. But I hope you know that I'm going to try my best to be consistent. So when you do good work, I'll reward you. And so hopefully that conversation becomes a we eventually. So it's, if we do good work, then we can reward ourselves for that good work. Say, good job. Go have the snack. Go play the video games. Then we'll get back at it. Because doing that work now saves us unnecessary suffering in the future. So try these two techniques, guys. I think that'll really help. Try that example conversation. That's a template. You can personalize this however you want. Use whatever kind of reward system you want to, and change up the conversation with yourself however you want to. But this has helped me more than sheer discipline. Talking to myself and rewarding myself. Try it out, guys. I think it's really going to help you guys a lot. It's helped me tremendously. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to watch. If you like this content, if you found this valuable, and I hope you have, make sure to subscribe for more, and be sure to check out my previous videos, including my current Succeeding with Stoicism series. I'll have it in this corner or this corner. I'm never going to learn which corner it is, whatever. But subscribe for more and drop a comment down below to join the conversation and let me know what you guys want to talk about, what I should talk about in the future. And I'll catch you guys later. Peace.